Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Two Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about whether or not Kashin Koji has been affected by the Omnipotence Shinjutsu that we saw being cast at the end of Boruto Naruto Next Generations by Ada in order to fulfill Kawaki's wish to switch roles with Boruto, where everyone's memories have been changed, where they now associate everything that happened with Boruto with Kawaki and everything that happened with Kawaki with Boruto. One of the things I noticed in the chapter review for Boruto Two Blue Vortex chapter 4 was there were a lot of you guys who are asking, was Kashin Koji affected by Omnipotence? And after continuing to see the comments on just about every video released since then, I think now's the time to address it. So we'll look at the reasons why people say Kashin Koji is not affected by the Shinjutsu and is immune to it, and then I'll give you guys my reason for why I may or may not agree with that. And then, like usual, we'll look at the narrative implications for what happens if he is immune to it. So one of the biggest reasons people are pointing to right now for being possible for Kashin Koji not being affected by Omnipotence is that there's a lot we don't know about the Shinjutsu itself, because even Momoshiki was completely thrown off as to why someone like Sarada, who's neither Otsutsuki, a blood relative to the caster, or the caster of the Shinjutsu itself, why she's actually immune to it. And as of this recording, the guy has no idea that Sumire is immune to the Shinjutsu either. While we don't know for certain why these two teenage girls are immune to the Shinjutsu, the one thing that we do know is that they are indeed exceptions to the rule. And it's something that even Ada herself is beginning to suspect, because in chapter 1, she's flat out questioning them if they're immune to the Shinjutsu, and retaining their memories means that they're immune to the charm and control power that she's used, and she thinks the whole time they've been lying to her. Damon is watching them like a hawk for any clues that they are lying to her sister. So just given there is a statistical exception, we do have to wonder if there might be others besides them who are immune to the Shinjutsu, and so people have begun suggesting that Kashin Koji is immune for that reason. The other reason people think that he might be immune is that following the battle with Ishiki, Kashin Koji reverse summoned himself inside the Toad, likely to head to the Toad Mountain inside of the Toad Sage region. They think that because he was there that somehow it safeguarded him from the effects of the Shinjutsu when it was casted. The final reason I've seen people suggest he's immune is that they point to the fact that he's a clone, so he isn't a real human, which that's a whole debate in of itself. I'm not even going to begin to go into this video, because I'm talking about that in a Mitsuki video essay that I'm working on now. However, those last 2 points are the weakest in my opinion. It's really only the first one, which is that he might fall into that extremely small statistical exception for the people immune to the Shinjutsu itself. The idea that he was somehow immune to the Shinjutsu because he was at Mount Miyaboku, it doesn't hold water with me, because we already saw it doesn't matter if you're in another dimension or not. You're still getting blasted by the effects of the Shinjutsu Omnipotence. When Ada used the jutsu, we see these chakra rings go out all across the planet. We get a shot from Earth from outer space where you see a giant ring go outwards into the cosmos, and we get smaller blasts at the poles of the Earth, showing the chakra went through the Earth itself and extended out of both ends of the planet. In chapter 80 of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, we see Code sitting there saying, quote, Jigen, Ishiki, and Ada, for your crimes of stealing all that I hold dear, you shall pay with your life, Boruto. End quote. Code is in another dimension, but is clearly affected by the Shinjutsu, because he's literally blaming Boruto for being the reason he lost everything that he originally blamed Kawaki from taking away from him. The other telltale sign here is that Boruto's name is bolded, and it's not Uzumaki Boruto, it's just Boruto. When Code has referred to Boruto in the past, like he did in chapter 57, when he's speaking to Ada, he directly refers to him as Uzumaki Boruto, and he does so again in chapter 63 when he calls Boruto Momoshiki Otsutsuki's vessel Uzumaki Boruto. That line in chapter 80 where only Boruto's first name is bolded and his last name is not even uttered, that was our clue, meant to draw your attention to it, because Code prior to that only referred to him as Uzumaki Boruto when speaking to him and when speaking about him. If Code was affected while tucked away in a whole Otsutsuki dimension, I don't see Kashin Koji sitting in a Toad hot spring somewhere unaffected by the Shinjutsu either. The same with him being a clone as being a workaround to the Shinjutsu, because people tend to forget Mitsuki is a clone of Orochimaru. And yet, as we saw when Mitsuki attacked Boruto, he too is affected by the Shinjutsu. Even Delta, someone who is a clone of Amato's daughter Akibi, she too was shown being affected by Ada's charm and control, which I bring up because, as Momoshiki states in the manga, that isn't an Otsutsuki power. It's a byproduct of Ada having used omnipotence on herself in the past to make people love her and be under her control. So it only strengthens that stance. I personally don't see Kashin Koji joining Sumire and Sarada on being the list of immune characters, but from a literary perspective, it can work when you look at the symbolism in the number 3. And by having a third person who is supposed to be affected by the Shinjutsu but isn't actually, is an effective use of storytelling. That being said, I personally think your most likely scenario is that Kashin Koji is in the same camp as Sasuke, which is that he knows his memory has been altered and that he can't trust his memories. But instead of fighting his memories, he just accepts them for what they are and just chooses to trust in Boruto being correct about everything, because there's been no option except to trust Boruto at this point. It's basically continuing Naruto's manga with something it played around with, which is the whole idea of having faith in something or someone when all logic and reasoning is telling you to do the opposite. I think that's the most likely case, and it's something that I don't think any of us who are familiar with Kashin Koji would be too upset with him doing anything like that, because it's something we've seen him do before. Go off on his own to do his own thing and follow his gut, even when he knows there's a risk to him doing so. Like when he stayed behind in Konoha and ended up getting confronted by Kakashi in the Konoha archives. However, if Kashin Koji is immune, for argument's sake, narratively, it gives Boruto some peace of mind, being able to travel with someone who at the very least knows that he is who he says he is, the son of the 7th Hokage, the grandson of the 4th Hokage, the daughter of Hinata Hyuga. It also gives him someone who has enough on the table that they don't need to waste time constantly suppressing their memory, telling them that Boruto isn't who he says he is. Because think about it for a second, the moment that Kashin Koji sees a karma seal on Boruto, the guy is gonna spaz out, because he's gonna think it's Ishiki's karma and that Ishiki successfully gave himself another vessel and is on his way to coming back. Which, if that's the case, Koji has every reason to want Boruto dead, because Ishiki coming back would be the worst case scenario that nobody wants in universe. There are some benefits to this, because Boruto having someone with a clear head that is unaffected by the omnipotence allows for him to at the very least begin to start making sense of everything that happened to him and formulate his plan for getting his parents back, settling the dispute between brothers with Kawaki, and ultimately reversing the Omnipotence Shinjutsu that Ada casted. I can see why a lot of people want Kashin Koji to be immune to the Shinjutsu. I'm just not 100% certain that this is going to be the case, that he's immune to it. But again, since Sumire and Sarada are immune to the Shinjutsu, we have to at the very least consider it a possibility and take it and file it away as something that could happen. I know the Omnipotence Shinjutsu might be something that a few of you guys are still confused about, because I still get comments each and every day of people absolutely confused about the Omnipotence Shinjutsu. So if you fall in that camp, you should definitely watch this video on the screen here, where we explain the Shinjutsu in detail and everything you need to know about Omnipotent.